You grew up in Austin, Texas. What was your childhood like, and how early on did you get introduced to football?
Yeah, well, I'd say I had a very active childhood. I think I played every sport under the sun. I mean, at one point, I was big into swimming. At one point, it was tennis, and then it was soccer at one point. I always loved football growing up. I mean, mostly just playing, backyard pickup football. Back in the ratty little grass field that we had behind our elementary school. And I think that's really probably where I got my first taste of the kind of style of play that I ended up having in college was playing on that grass field growing up. But it wasn't until later years that I actually kind of settled on football as my primary sport. Because, like I said, I just every couple of years my favorite sport changed when I was a kid growing up.
That's the beauty about being a kid. You can try different things, see what you like, see what you don't like. At what point did you decide to kind of hone in on football and become a quarterback? Because there's so many other positions you could pick. I don't even know how you choose.
Yeah, when I was playing flag football, I think in middle school, I guess this would have been sixth grade. I actually got beat out by another kid for the quarterback spot. I thought it was the wrong decision, but you got to go with what the coach says. So I ended up playing receiver that year, which is an absolute blast, especially when you're playing flag football, getting to run down the field and everything else. But it was, when I, transitioned to tackle football the next year, and we actually moved school districts out to Lake Travis, where I ended up staying for high school. And that's when I won, my first quarterback job as a seventh grader. And after that, I was kind of hooked on being a quarterback because I had to have the ball in my hands every play. And I just couldn't imagine playing a position where that wasn't the case. So, although at that age I was pretty good size, so I was also doing a double duty as middle linebacker on defense. So you can imagine a quarterback, middle linebacker in seventh and eighth grade. While I was also the punter and kicker, so I was kind of trying to do it all on the football field in middle school.
That's the funniest part about hearing these childhood stories about football or pretty much any sport, because you play all these different positions, and you're right, as you get older and as you grow, in that sport that you end up choosing, like in what world are you playing? Middle linebacker, you're playing quarterback, you're kicking, are you coaching too? Maybe we're throwing a little coaching as well.
It was funny. I wasn't doing any coaching, but I was just laughing about this. I was thinking back. I used to take my shoe off to do the punting and kicking. For whatever reason, I kicked the ball, further and better when I had my shoe off. So you imagine running off the field, having to take your cleat off, run out there, kick it. And a few times I had to make a tackle when the ball was being returned, with one shoe running around the field.
You went to Lake Travis High School. You have a ton of success there. You're named the Texas 4A Player of the Year as a junior, but you weren't getting a lot of interest from colleges. Why was that, Todd? What do you think was going on kind of in that world?
Yeah, well, Lake Travis at that point in time certainly wasn't a renowned powerhouse in football like it is, now 15 years later. We were 0-10 my freshman year. My sophomore year, I think we went 3-7, and I actually played receiver that year as well as the backup quarterback, which I do think, playing receiver gave me a lot of insight into what receivers are going through, how they evaluate how to get open, how they're reading defenses, which I think translated and helped me become a better quarterback because I played the position. I understood what they were going through. Then we have a good year my junior year, and then go 10-0 my senior year. But I think back about the recruiting process. I think a lot of it had to do with this. Lake Travis wasn't well known on the map, so it wasn't like an area that people were going to be coming for, looking for recruits. I think Austin in general, wasn't really a hotbed. It was more Dallas and Houston, and it still largely is, I think, for the most part. And I was undersized, right? I'm 5'10" and a quarter in reality. 5'11", 6 foot if they give me a little nudge on the program. So a lot of it was proactive efforts. Back then we were still rocking VHS tapes. So I remember together our own little collage of game film along with a little, one-page resume. And it was me and my parents, sending tapes out to, anybody that would have us. And so that was really what we were doing, throughout my junior year, trying to build up some sort of an engagement or interest from schools around the country.
You win Texas 4A Player of the Year. Texas is synonymous with football. And when you're tearing it up, I guess from my side, I just thought offers would be pouring in. I guess I didn't really understand that it's also dependent on a lot of the other factors. Is your school having success? Like where are you located? And of course the stuff like how tall are you and the physical attributes, which I think that part is ridiculous.
It is. Well, and there's, it's really tough to evaluate kids at that age because a lot of kids aren't done growing. A lot of them may have very limited experience playing football. Maybe they got recruited in by the coach because of their size or their speed, but they haven't developed the technical skills yet, or really understand the X's and O from a mental aspect. So I can understand the challenge with finding, high quality recruits, because a lot of guys just aren't there yet, but they turn into great players in college or even after college as guys are still developing into their professional careers. So yeah, I certainly was had a good idea that I wanted to play football, that I knew I could play at that level. And it was really just a matter of finding anybody to give me a chance. And it was pretty interesting. The first scholarship offer I got actually came out of the blue. I had no contact with Kansas State, which is where the offer was from, back when Coach Snyder was there, who obviously is a legendary college football coach, had a ton of success at K-State. I came home and opened up a letter from Kansas State one day, and they said, "Hey, we'd like to offer you a scholarship." And I hadn't talked to any coaches on their roster, so I called up their coaching staff and I was kind of curious, like, "Hey, why'd you send me the offer?" I'm thankful, I'm grateful for it. Don't get me wrong. And so that was my first, opportunity to obviously play in college. So at that point, I knew I would be able to, at a minimum, go to Kansas State. And then after that, I think that's when I started to have a lot more engagement with other schools, and that was kind of the spring of my junior year.